As you know, I love testing cheap and cheerful car cleaning kits. So last week, I thought I'd have a dabble on eBay and see what I could find. Well, it turns out the website is packed of many different brands, but there was one in particular that stood out from the crowd. And it was this one right here from the well-known tyre manufacturer called Goodyear. Now, they have a very good reputation behind them, so I'm hoping that we're going to have some fairly decent products to test. Now, when I was shopping on eBay, I have to admit I was kind of blindsided because there were so many different chemicals available. When this one popped up, I immediately bought it on a bit of an impulse, mainly because of the brand behind it. However, when they arrived in the post, I realised it was missing one key ingredient. These days, we don't get to spend much time on eBay, mainly because we tend to take advantage of Amazon Prime and its free delivery. And let's not forget Temu. Anyway, I think you'll like this one today, so let's take a look at everything we get in our eBay special. So let me show you some of the products that you get in this car cleaning kit. So we're going to start off with the interior for a change, and we have their upholstery cleaner. So this is a lemon scented product. Everybody loves a good lemon scent, so it's already off to a good start. Now, apparently this says it cleans and protects, and it's safe and effective on all surfaces. But I think looking at the directions here, it's mainly aimed at spillages that you would get on your fabric. I think it's also important to note that it says that it does not leave any dull residue on the interior, whether that's the fabric or plastic, we'll have to find out. And it also says that it protects against water and dust. So are they saying this has got any hydrophobic properties for your fabric, or are they saying this has a built-in anti-static formula? I'm guessing it's going to be the second option, but I'm dying to see how this one's going to perform. Next up, we have the cockpit cleaner. So this is designed just for use on your plastics, whereas with the upholstery cleaner, that actually says you can use it on all surfaces. So later on, it will be interesting to do a little comparison between the two to find out which is best. Also, things to mention, this says it effectively cleans dirt, dust and grime from the dashboard and surroundings, and it protects against water and dust, helping to leave a showroom shine. So I'm guessing, like the upholstery cleaner, this could have some sort of anti-static properties. I don't think you're again going to get that hydrophobic effect with the plastic, but does that really matter? I don't think so. Next up, we have the glass and mirror cleaner. Now, it also says this is suitable for acrylic as well, and you can use it to tackle some of the bug splats. So if you are on the go and you've got a few bugs on the windscreen, this will be able to tackle it pretty instantly. But again, we have got another fruity fresh fragrance. It doesn't actually tell us what's inside. It's got a picture of an orange, some grapes and a lemon as well. So I don't know, it could just smell like those ones, but we are going to have a bit of a concoction going on. Anything else to mention about this product? No, not really. It's pretty much simple. Just spray on, wipe off, like any glass cleaner. So this is the interior. Let's take a look at the exterior. Now, this is where we could become slightly unstuck, because when I purchased all of these online, there was one thing I didn't take into consideration, and that was how well my brain was working on the day. So when I saw the fancy pictures online, I added to cart, went to checkout, and then a few days later, here we are, they arrived. However, I thought this came with a wash and wax or a car shampoo, and it kind of does, but above it in big letters says the words waterless, which means that what we have here is not necessarily a car cleaning kit, it's more of a show and shine top-up kit. So if you're at a car show or a big event or a wedding, you'd normally pull this out of the boot of your car and just give it a quick tidy up. So maybe, just maybe, this will reflect in the price. So what I'm going to do is put this one to the side, because we have got a solution, and I will get to that in a moment's time. But what I would like to do is put this to a test in another video against one of the biggest rivals in the world. So that's going to be an amazing video. Make sure you subscribe, because that video is coming very soon. Anyway, moving on to the wheel cleaner. So this is where I said it could get confusing. So we've got a waterless wash here, which doesn't involve using a pressure washer. However, anytime you use wheel cleaner, you need a garden hose or a pressure washer if you want to get that chemical off, because wheel cleaners tend to be slightly aggressive. There's a few warnings on this. You need to test them on an inconspicuous area first. I don't know how strong this is going to be. I mean, look, it's a very cheap set of products here. I paid very little money for this, and I will reveal at the end how much I paid. So I'm on the fence with this one. I'm not sure how this one's going to go. It could either be really good or really pants. I'm hoping it's going to be really good. Right, so let's move on to the bumper and trim dressing. It's just a spray-on, wipe-off product. However, they don't recommend you spray it around the bodywork, which is nice to see. What they recommend is you spray it on an applicator pad or a cloth and then wipe it on there. So at least there's not going to be any recommendations such as spraying it here, because they know that if it blows in the wind and it gets on the glass, it's game over and it's going to make an awful mess. Right, so now we've got one, actually, no, we've got two more products to show you because we've got a secret one down here. So what we have here is a tyre shine. So again, you just spray it onto the tyres. There's nothing really else I can explain other than spray it on and let it dwell. But you know how much I hate the idea of that. So I am going to be doing two wheels by just spraying it on the car. And then we're also going to do two wheels where I spray it on an applicator pad and work it into the tyre to see whether we get any different results. So we do have a slight problem here because I didn't anticipate this wash and wax being a waterless product. So what I've gone and done was get a wash and wax from Goodyear. However, I couldn't get it on eBay. I got it on Amazon because that was the only place I could find it. I paid $5.99 for that and I've got 2.5 litres here. And it says it's got added carnauba wax. One thing I might do though, after I've cleaned the car down one side, I might actually spray this on the bodywork because apparently it leaves a nice shine. So could we potentially use this as a finishing spray? I don't know, but I'm dying to find out. For today's test, I'll be working on this Ford Mustang. This had dirty gloss black alloys and the usual traffic film with the odd bit of rust. But all in all, I've worked on much worse in my career. Although the weather was slightly warm, it was plenty overcast enough not to cause me any problems. And I was kinda glad because I think I've been overdoing it lately, working very long hours and my energy levels are just completely depleted. So I really did need to take it easy today. This cleanup gave me an opportunity to have a play around with the new Active 2.0 foam cannon, as I've heard everybody in the industry is raving about it, so I thought why not see what all the fuss is about. As always, I start off by foaming up the bucket to see how long the bubbles will stick around before I get to the contact wash. And I wasn't going to hold my breath here because just like the Red Bull shampoo that I featured a few weeks ago, this has a hydrophobic formula, which basically means you get less suds, but then you get better water sheeting. But we're going to start off with the wheels, and the very first thing that I noticed immediately was just how terrible the trigger performed. And you can see it here with this wheel cleaner. Yes, it did foam up, but it wasn't even a nice even finish. It was just clumps. I tried rinsing out the trigger and I still had the same issue, so I just got on with it. And as predicted, the first spray made very little impact, so a second spray will be needed if I was to stand a chance of getting these wheels clean. Normally, spraying wheel cleaner on wet alloys reduces the effectiveness, but what I noticed was better lubrication, so brushing them didn't feel too bad. So I was wondering whether this method would have any benefits at all, and I will confirm all my findings later in the video. For the rear wheel, it's getting back to the painful task of spraying the alloys, and I get it, it's got to be cheap to look appealing. But I just felt fed up already with the trigger because you know what you want from the cleaner, but it just wasn't an enjoyable experience. So if you have other triggers, then I'd 100% recommend you try them instead. This time around, I thought I'd go for one of my favourite methods, which is layering up snow foam on top of the wheel cleaner. And I was hoping the better dwell time would be able to give me a fighting chance of actually getting these clean. And I did this twice, which made my life a little bit easier, but then I had some pretty awkward wheels to work on, so I had to break out the skinny wheel woolies just to finish them off. Before we get to the Goodyear wash and wax, I opted to use my go-to pre-wash and snow foam, and don't worry, this won't interfere with the results. Car shampoos or wash and waxes are designed to shift the dirt during the contact wash stage only, so judging it on its pre-washing capabilities is pointless. As soon as I finished off rinsing the snow foam, I could then jump on with the contact wash, and I was surprised to see some bubbles had remained stable in the bucket, but still I put the pressure washer back in to charge it up one more time. I'm pleased to report, as far as cheap wash and waxes go, this one had plenty of suds. No, it didn't really feel as slick as the proper car care brands, but bearing in mind it cost £5.99, I was pleasantly surprised. Mind you, I did have to use about 12 capfuls in my bucket in the end, but I was still expecting a lot less suds. But it wasn't all good news, because one thing I would say was just how little hydrophobic properties there were. So if you're buying this thinking it will protect your car just because it has the word wax on the label, then I hate to break it to you, but sadly it won't. The next task on the list was to dry off the remaining water with my new gold label drying towels, and if you haven't seen my latest video featuring these, then I will leave a link in the description below. Once the Mustang was dry, I could get the car back inside where it'd stay for the next few days because something wasn't right. So I've had to take a couple of days out. I don't feel great about it, but I feel all right now, like not as bad as I was, but the last couple of days, I've just felt ridiculously tired, stressed, and I think all this extra work that I've been taking on has finally caught up with me. So I'm a full-time parent, full-time YouTuber. As soon as the kids go to bed, I'm up all night editing, And yesterday was the first time ever in 39 years on this earth where I've passed out. I've never passed out in my life. So I know I'm getting older, I'm slowing down, and I have been working stupidly hard, but not trying to make excuses for it. But I think there probably could be a lot of you in a similar boat, like with doing cars out and about. It is getting warmer now, so when you are outside, despite there is a bit of cloud coverage like today, it's actually quite warm. And I think for us British men, we don't quite really understand how to cope with it. So not trying to make excuses, but I just feel that I've had to take a few days out to get back on track. And no, I'm not back on track, but I feel like the wheels are in motion now. Is that an ice cream man? No way. This is big news. Right, I'm going to go and get a Mr. Whippy. I did not plan that, by the way. I'm going to go get an ice cream, and maybe that can solve all my problems. I'll tell you what, talk about the universe working in your favour. Just when you feel down and out, Mr. Whippy turns up, solves all your problems. I'm going to have this, and then we're going to carry on with the car. After concluding the ice cream was a solid 4 out of 5, I decided to jump on with the next task. Waterless wash and wax. Why am I even bothering using this in the first place? Well, I think this is a perfect scenario for it, really. Imagine the scene, right? So you've gone to a car show, you cleaned your car the day before, but then you still had to drive to the event. You picked up a little bit of dirt and dust and maybe a bit of road film as well. So there's only going to be one real solution, because not many of you are going to have a battery-powered pressure washer, because we all know how well they go. And I think this would be a good opportunity to see what the overall finish is going to be like. It says that it protects the vehicle as well, so it would give it a bit of gloss, a bit of protection. So I thought, why not give it a go? You have to give it a good shake. Now, I've got 2 cloths here, so what I'm going to do is kind of like spread the product over one section of this bonnet here, and then go over it again immediately. Oh no. So this, straight away, it feels like it wants to pull along the surface, which isn't good. It's not as if it's just gliding over. When you've got ceramic detailers, you can just chuck the cloth over and it just wants to glide very quickly. With this, it's the complete opposite. That is just dragging. Let's see if it's any easier when I follow up with the second cloth. I mean, it is, but if there's any damp areas where the product has just sat on the bonnet, it just doesn't want to move over it. But now I've just wiped it away. That final wipe, you can feel it does want to glide over. But initially, I think, bearing in mind this is a waterless wash and wax, a waterless wash, I think if you were to spray over any dirt and wipe it, I think there's a high probability you're going to scratch your car. I definitely wasn't feeling this one. As a finishing spray, it wasn't great. But as a waterless wash, I needed more convincing. Now, the job of a waterless wash is to have a very thick textured chemical that encapsulates the dirt within a microfiber cloth. That's the theory behind it. And the thing is, we are in a controlled environment. Yes, it's freakishly hot outside today, but we are in the shade and my camera's gone down. But I can still see streaks here. Actually, let me grab the camera so I can show you. Don't know what you can see here. You've got 2 streaks coming down there. See? Just down there. Nah, not a fan of this. And I think if we were outside in the elements right now, I think it would be a lot worse. One thing it doesn't tell you on the bottle is how much of this chemical you should really be spraying onto the vehicle. But interestingly enough, they go further on to say that you can use this on a dry or wet surface. Wet meaning water. So I'm guessing if you've got water in the first place, you wouldn't be using this now, would you? At the moment, I'm struggling to find anything I really like. So can a glass cleaner finally win me over? So what I'm going to do now is show you the glass, because I've intentionally got the glass quite smeary with a waterless wash. So we didn't actually try to clean the glass, but what I did was there was sprays, there's bits of residue all dropping down. But when I had my blue towel here, I was wiping over the surface like this. You can see what happens when you're trying to get this top section up here. You are actually dragging it onto the glass. And what we have here now is a load of streaks from where I've just been wiping it. So I just want to prove a point to you, because If you go using this, not just this waterless wash, by the way, any type of waterless wash, you could face issues, especially if you're outside. Now, this is just a result of being inside, but imagine being outside in the direct sunlight thinking that you've got a chemical that is perfectly safe on the bodywork and it's going to do the same job on the glass. I just don't think it's going to happen. If there's one thing I know I can do well, it's getting perfect glass. So could this cleaner impress me? I'm not going easy on this glass. I'm using more than normal, but I think it needs it on this occasion. And I have to say, this is very good. Yeah, there was just a couple of little blobs from the waterless wash. It looked like it had really stained the glass. It's come out though. This glass cleaner has that vinegary smell that you might find with things like window lean, but it has done a really good job. I'm quite impressed with that. Really impressed. It's a pass for the Goodyear glass cleaner, but can they really turn it around now as we move on to the bumper dressing? For this, I sprayed the chemical onto a microfiber cloth and applied it to the textured trim. And these silver label cloths are what I would define as throwaway cloths, because anything that ever gets cross-contaminated with dressings should never really go back into the washing machine. Now, this was easy to apply, but would it hold up? Well, that's an interesting question, because funnily enough, something does happen later in the video. For those of you regular viewers of the channel, you probably know that I've tested loads of cheap and cheerful tyre dressings recently, and I'm still yet to find one that's actually half decent. They're all really terrible. So I'm not going to hold out for this one and say it's going to be the best. It says it's a glossy finish. A glossy finish on a tyre is never a good look. You like a nice satin or matte finish when you do your tyres because you want it to look nice and uniform. When it's too glossy, it's too shiny. It just makes it look like it's just been dragged through a hand car wash. Spraying this tyre dressing felt so wrong, and I don't advise their recommended method outside because of the overspray. But I think there could be a real good reason why they suggest spraying it on the tyre and not applying it with a sponge. And I think it comes down to the chemical being slightly weak, so using a sponge or an applicator could end up having very little effect. I'm not sure about this one, you know. What do you reckon? I think they look a little bit too shiny for my liking. Now, I know it's subjective, so some of you might actually like the look of that. Let's start off at the back here. I personally hate it. Look at it. It's so shiny. I'm going to see how it would dry out. It basically looks like I've shoved a load of hair gel all over it. But look here, even in this light. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you like the super wet glossy look? Or do you prefer a nice matte finish? Now it's time to jump onto the upholstery cleaner, and thankfully I had an old relic outside the studio, which had some nasty stains, so I wanted to see whether this basic cleaner could tackle the challenging marks. And much to my surprise, it did. It was fantastic. And bearing in mind I was only just using the spray, a scrub pad and a cloth, I was very impressed, and the smell of lemons was a nice touch too. Whoa!
Oh, look at the state of that.
And I had more good news to report, as the Mustang mats were cleaning up nicely too. So we're beginning to make a comeback now, and I think the Goodyear kit could really redeem itself in the next challenge. So here we go, cockpit cleaner time. And this was another fruity scented chemical which is used to clean up the plastics. And my first impressions were average. I wasn't really blown away by this one, but then again, it wasn't terrible by any means. It did foam up pretty well, which is always helpful so you can see where you've been, but I just felt like the finish was a little bit undesirable. And like the tyre dressing, I just felt like this was weak and watered down, but that's just my opinion. Personally, I'd still recommend a nice subtle interior dressing to go on top afterwards if you wanted to give it that fresh finish. Wow, hot one today. So yesterday afternoon we worked on the last bits, which was the tyres and the bumpers and the bodywork and the glass. Now we've left it about 20 hours, I can finally reveal what the tyres have finally done, because when we were spraying them, they looked really wet and glossy and they didn't really look that attractive. But now we have a completely different scenario. Now you can see on the tyre there's not really any shine left, which is a good thing. But as we come round to here as well, it looks like it doesn't look like I've really dressed the tyres. So for some of you, you might say that that chemical doesn't necessarily work. However, In my opinion, I think less is more with a tyre dressing. Again, the bumper dressing's not really that great. You can't really see that much of a difference either. But there is one more important thing to remember. We can't ignore the fact that it is quite warm today. So in humid conditions, you normally find that if this car was outside, then the tyre dressing and the bumper dressing could potentially evaporate. However, it has stayed in here for a good 20 hours since I applied it, and it's doing it already. So if it was outside, there really would be nothing left. Looking at the glass and the bodywork, I would say that's fairly tidy. I've not really got any problems there. Right, I just want to quickly whiz through all these products because it is unbelievably hot in here. We'll start off with the tyre shine. It's definitely not a dressing, it's just a quick spray on the tyres and it will enhance them for that brief moment. I think for long term, this just simply isn't good enough. It does say it would give you a showroom finish. Unfortunately, that showroom is a second-hand garage in Luton. The bumper trim and plastic restorer, same story for this. I didn't really like it at all. I can't honestly recommend that. And it was again the same story for the alloy wheel cleaner. This was just so weak. I mean, the only way that I could get this to work was if I was using a snow foam and then I started agitating it. Other than that, it just felt useless. And I think at that point, you're better off going for a snow foam. The waterless wash and wax, it does have its place. Really, that place is not going to be inside this studio. I will be using it one more time. I will put it up against a rival, like I said I would. But for now, I think we're just going to park it to the side. It was horrible to apply. I know it was warm, but we were inside. We were out of the direct sunlight, and I still didn't like that one. So that's enough negativity. Let's go on to something a little more positive, and we will start with the cockpit cleaner. This wasn't that bad, you know. It was a bit of a bland finish. It wasn't really an overpowering smell. It just smelt a bit odd, but nevertheless, it foamed up nicely and I could still clean the plastic. So that was a positive thing to take from it. Now, the wash and wax wasn't really that bad. In terms of giving you a hydrophobic effect after you use the chemical, I didn't really see any of that, and I could kind of tell that was a direction it was going to be going in because there was quite a lot of suds, and with any shampoos like that, you normally find there's just no suds at all. In second place was the glass cleaner. Apart from smelling like fish and chips, I can't really knock it. It did everything that I would expect from a normal glass cleaner. But in first place, for me, was a standout winner, and that was the upholstery cleaner. Now, when I used this yesterday, I had no problems. You could see in the footage the seats were horrendous. I sprayed it, I scrubbed it, I wiped it, and then I vacuumed the last bits up. No problems. And the smell of lemons was really nice too. So we got 4 half decent products, or should I say 4 good products. I think good's as far as I'm going to go. But then we got 4 products that I just really wouldn't want to use ever again. So it really is a bit hit and miss, but you've got to take it with a pinch of salt. In life, you get what you pay for, and I think this is a perfect example. So that was one of eBay's cheapest car cleaning kits, and there will be some more coming from that website very soon. And I know there's a few of you out there who have started to drop a few hints about other supermarkets getting on the car cleaning bandwagon. Well, if you're one of those fanatics who loves a supermarket brand, then come back next week because things are about to get interesting.